Hey, this is Coaster Chall Dogs the Bob both theme parks, and welcome to another video. Now this is a Coaster Chall review from It's a Small World After All from Disneyland Park in Paris. So remember, if you requested a shout out after the video went up from Carowinds, then don't worry, your shout out will be in tomorrow's video. The first video of tomorrow that I record. I'll record at least one video every day, and the other videos that I upload will be pre-records. Like this one. So this is a pre-record review from It's a Small World, which is a water boat ride. So basically, if you don't know the story of this ride, Walt Disney saw a convention with moving puppets, and he decided he wanted to build an attraction based on that, and that is how the creation of It's a Small World came about. In, of course, what was known at the time Euro Disney. Of course, it became Disneyland Park in Paris. So as usual with these reviews, I'm going to go straight from the top, straight down to the bottom, stripping this ride from top to bottom, all about the experience, the waiting experience, the actual layout of the ride, and what I think overall to the attraction. So let's get started with queue line and station atmosphere. Now, queue line and station atmosphere is key to a ride. For those of you who don't know these reviews, and this is the first one you've watched, queue line and station atmosphere is basically soundtrack, the theming around the queue line, the layout of the queue line. Is it cattle pen? Is it a boring cattle pen where it's zigzagging in and out? Is it actually round the ride like Wicker Man? There's a few cattle pen queue line bits here and there, but you can only do a cattle pen queue line if it's decent quality, if it's got some nice theming around it, and it feels eccentric, and it immerses you into the experience. So, queue line station atmosphere for It's Small World then. So, moving through the queue line, I can remember the atmosphere and the excitement, especially as a kid when you're in that queue line waiting for a decent family ride. You know, there were some nice themed walls around the queue line, not much theming around the queue line itself because of course you were waiting to get into the platform. Station looked quite a little bit fantasy. It felt like a bit of a happy station, especially with the soundtrack blaring out of the station. I thought that was a nice touch. So for queue line station atmosphere, I'm going to give it a decent 5.5 out of 10. Could be better themed around the queue line, but it's decent for what it is. Theming around the ride, gotta be an 8. It can't be any more than an 8. I think some more theming items would boost up to a 9. Some better some projection mapping here and there, and some effects would boost the ride to a 10. But in terms of theming around the ride, it's just alright. It's really decent, but it's nothing, you know, completely world class because it is a classic dark ride. But I don't know, it felt very decent, but it just didn't take that next step up in my opinion. But there was some nice animatronics. It flowed well. The soundtrack around the ride moved you through, but I'll talk through more about that in the layout section of the review. But for theming around the ride, pretty decent. Nice 3D models, nice animatronics, like I said. The way they moved, you can't see because of course you've heard what I think of Jewel in the past at Alton Towers. How I don't like how they've replaced the lights with LED. They've replaced the strobes with LED strobes, so you can see some of the mechanics, which ruins the experience. With this one, it's completely different. You can't see any of the mechanics. It feels like you can just see these animatronics just moving by itself, even though we know the animatronics are underneath and they're out of show from the crowd. So a decent 8 out of 10 for theming around the ride. Layout of the ride then, in terms of a boat ride, very tame like it is, because it is a water dart ride for families, so it would be very tame in terms of a layout. There's no drops, no lift hills or anything like that. But of course, it's not just about the layout of the ride, it's about the layout of the experience. So like I said, I love how it moves you through, and the soundtrack changed to different countries and different representations of the soundtrack. The famous soundtrack, It's a Small World After All. Very classic soundtrack. I get really addicted by that soundtrack because it's one of my favourite Disneyland Park soundtracks in the history of the Disney parks. Obviously, I'm still yet to do other Disney attractions around the world. I've only done Disneyland Paris and the Walt Disney Studios Park in Paris, so I'm still yet to do the original Disneyland in Anaheim, the Florida parks, the Asia parks, which is something I'd love to get out to in the future. Obviously, if they do a Disneyland park in the UK, I'd be very excited about that as well. So I'm still yet to do a lot of Disney parks. for me to fully get used to the It's a Small World soundtrack. But for now, very addictive soundtrack. And like I said, the soundtrack will give different interpretations of the song depending on which country and which scene you're in. And I like how it flows through and you can't hear the other soundtrack when you're flowing through into the different scenes from the previous scene. You can't hear the previous soundtrack when you're in the new scene, which I thought was really good. So for layout overall in terms of experience and a ride, I'm going to be giving this a decent 8 out of 10. So overall then, I'm going to give this ride 7.5 out of 10. I think it's a really decent dart ride, great for Disney. I think a few little enhancements here and there just to keep it up with the times a little bit would make it a very decent attraction. So overall for It's a Small World at Disneyland Park in Paris, I'm going to be giving this ride 7.5 out of 10. That is this review then from It's a Small World at Disneyland Park in Paris. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe and click the notification bell so you never miss a video. My name is Coach Chall, keep living the coast of my dudes, and I'll see you guys in the next video soon. Take care, have an awesome day my friends.